Going on the Alarm NASCAR DFS podcast. I am Dan Malin, and I'm joined, as always, by Matt Selz, the FSWA three-time NASCAR Writer of the Year. We are streaming through the Better Sports Network. Matt, how you doing? We have a big race, the final race of the regular season at Daytona, the World Center of Racing.
I'm good. I'm reveling in the fact that NASCAR fans want longer than 2-hour races, while the same group of people that watches F1 can't stand if it goes past 2 hours. Like, there's a weird disconnect happening here where
I thought it was refreshing to get a NASCAR race under 2 hours. Do I think that that's going to be how NASCAR goes with all the races? No, it's impossible for the Daytona 500 to be under 2 hours. The Coke 600, it's a miracle if that thing's under like 3.5 hours. I like long races. But at this, like Sunday's race, if there's a style of race that I want to be under 2 hours, it's probably road courses, especially if you're going to take away stage breaks.
Correct. Like, I like how we all decided that we didn't like stage breaks, and then they took them away, and now we all want cautions.
We all want longer races.
Like, can we just revel in the fact that there was more than 3 hours of continuous green flag racing between Indy Road and Watkins Glen?
Yeah.
Like they had that stat up at one point during Sunday's race, and I was like, that's remarkably impressive, because up until Chase Elliott's caution for running out of gas because Alan Gustafson can't do math, there hadn't been a caution since lap 2 of the Indy Road course, which is impressive. Like, it's hard to find a streak like that in recent NASCAR. So I enjoyed it. We all liked the racing. Like, the argument is you like racing because you want to see the drivers settle it on the track, right? And now we're complaining that we're letting drivers settle it on the track. I don't understand.
Yeah, and I still like, tuning in for like really long, like 3 to 3.5 hour races. But it was a little refreshing just to be able to clock that one at under 2 hours. And we'll move forward because we won't see another race under 2 hours this year. Doubt we even get it at the Roval. But we turn our attention to Daytona.
To be fair, the last fastest race in NASCAR, the shortest time, was also Watkins Glen, and I don't think that was under 2 hours. I think it was close.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was under 2 hours. So it doesn't happen. Like, Watkins Glen was like, I don't know, it was a couple of years ago when that happened. So it doesn't happen very often.
But I thought that NASCAR was going to pull all the strings that they could behind the scenes to potentially get Chase Elliott to win. That obviously
apparently all they did was pull the plug on his gas tank.
Right? Yeah. But he, no different than last week, he needs a win.
Correct.
As does his teammate Alex Bowman, as do a few other drivers. Likely AJ Allmendinger, probably Ty Gibbs, unless Bubba has an absolutely terrible day, which we don't expect to happen at a super speedway. If there were to be a new winner to punch your ticket to the playoffs, who do you think it would be?
Well, that's a pretty good question. So they did change the rule this year that you don't have to be top 30 in points to make it. So there are technically 17 drivers that are still alive. All you have to do is be full-time in the Cup Series. So you can't be like a one-off guy and make it. So like Shane SVG didn't make the playoffs because he's not a full-time guy. So the win in Chicago is great, but it doesn't get him into the playoffs. So if it's going to be a new winner, I kind of think it might be Bubba, to be honest. Like, he's so good at these races. He's so good at them, and he needs to have a good day to assure that he gets a points haul that can withstand other people having good days, or God forbid somebody coming from way in the back to nab a win.
Do you think Denny Hamlin, if he was in position and like if he lined up behind Bubba, do you think he just pushes him to a win and Denny doesn't try to go for the win himself?
I would bet you that Denny would push Bubba to the win.
I kind of agree, because weren't we in a similar boat last year with Tyler Reddick and Austin Dillon, and Reddick essentially pushed Dillon to a win?
Yeah, because he was already assured of a playoff spot, and they needed the extra sheet. Now, here's the interesting part about Bubba. If Bubba makes the playoffs, he's in as a driver, but not in the owner playoffs. Whereas last year he wasn't in as a driver, but they switched him cars because Kurt Busch's car made the owner playoff. But he wasn't in as a driver. So it's kind of weird that it's flipped. But yeah, I could see basically anybody in the Toyota camp helping Bubba at this point nab a win because it's good for Toyota to get more cars in there, despite the rumors. What do you think of the rumors of 2311 going to Ford?
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of that.
Would Toyota
because is this Denny's last year and is he just going to go drive for his own team and
So that's what I don't know.
Manufacturer be damned.
He's consistently said he wants to be renewed with JGR, yet he does not have a deal in place with JGR, and he's a free agent at the end of the year. So, does that go hand in hand with the rumors that SHR is selling two of their
charters?
I don't know. What does that mean? Josh Berry's guaranteed one, and then it's a fist fight between Priest and Briscoe because Almirola is retiring.
Is he really? Is that official?
I don't. Well, I
guess the writing's on the wall.
Yeah, the only one who's assured of a ride next year at SHR, I would say, is Josh Berry.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy that we're seeing that team possibly dwindle from a 4-car team to 2.
I get the argument that you can make it a winning organization faster in 2 cars than 4 cars because it's less financial.
Just consolidate your resources.
Right. It's the same thing that JTG Doherty did with Stenhouse. Was we're just going to consolidate down and you're going to be a 1-car team and it's paid dividends. It's the same reason that Roush kept going down to smaller and smaller, was to consolidate resources and get better. But I don't know. Could it possibly be that Denny winds up in a Ford driving for his own team because he buys an SHR? 2 former Gibbs drivers swap charters and manufacturers, Tony Stewart and Denny Hamlin, to go get the Ford. I don't know.
Well, do you think that there's anyone in the Toyota camp that would help Ty Gibbs get to a win?
I would imagine that his teammates would. The other 3 guys, or the other 2 guys, I guess, at JGR probably would. Right? I don't. If Denny is caught between pushing Bubba and Ty, I don't know.
Denny has said on his podcast, I think, that his number 1 priority this week is getting Bubba a win if he's in position, or at the very least, just getting Bubba into the playoffs.
Right. So if the choice is between Bubba or Ty, he's going to push Bubba.
Yeah.
Because he's way more financially tied to that than helping his boss's grandson.
Yeah, that's the situation.
It is close. There's how many points 32 points between Bubba and Ty right now, according to NASCAR's standings.
Pretty safe bet that Bubba's making it.
Yeah, Kevin Harvick, I think all he has to do is start this race and he's locked in. I'm not sure why it's not showing that he's...
I thought he was locked in already.
I guess he has to be, right? He and Keselowski are locked in because they're 135 points above the cut line right now. So there's no way they lose enough to get bumped out. The problem for Bubba is that if somebody below the cut line wins, he's the one that's cut out. So
yeah,
that makes things very interesting. And we've seen Hendrick drivers come here and need a win and get it, right? William Byron pulled it off a couple years ago. Austin Dillon pulled it off last year. So we've seen guys do it. Is it possible that Alex Bowman pulls that off this year? Anything's possible. It's Daytona. But
I will say he's probably a better bet just to win the pole or start on the front row.
Probably. Because he's been on the front row, 6 straight?
Him and Larson have just historically qualified very well at this track. And then they go backwards. And that's why we don't play Kyle Larson at Daytona.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of reasons, but yes.
But we are 10 minutes in. I guess we can just kind of get to a DFS breakdown. We are recording this Thursday night. This is before they don't have practicing this week, but they will have qualifying Friday afternoon and kind of early evening before the Xfinity Series race Friday nights.
Yeah, it's a weird schedule this week.
Very weird. But we also, for Super Speedway races and Atlanta now, we just kind of record midweek. We just give you a preview. I was really excited about this race. It's the last regular season race. I was ready to actually throw down and put 150 lineups into the 50-cent Minimax. I have a fly right in front of me. It's so damn annoying. I apologize. But I looked at the payout structure for the Minimax, and it's awful. Pretty much all the tournaments on DraftKings this week, the payout structure is trash. So where I was thinking about getting a little different, because normally I only do 3 lineups for these races, but I was intrigued and I wanted to really max enter something, but like the payout structure is just not very inviting, which is a shame. But I'm still going to enjoy the race. I'll probably do one lineup and we'll go from there.
Yeah, this is the time of year where you got to start being very picky about the contest you enter because it's about to get swallowed up by NFL.
Yeah.
Like it just is. And even for that matter, college football DFS, which is pretty popular. It's just the way the end of the NASCAR season goes. So as far as the schedule this week, the Xfinity race is Friday evening at Daytona.
Playbook's live.
What?
The Playbook's already live.
Yeah, the Playbook's already up. So if you're listening to this, you've already missed a chance to get jumped on your research because it's been out for a couple hours.
Nice. Yeah, but I mean, we still got to wait for the starting order, and it'll get.
Well, I mean, a little, I guess. May as well close eyes and throw darts at a dartboard, man. It's like,
especially Xfinity.
Yeah,
because those guys.
Man, they turn every track into Daytona. It doesn't even have to be Daytona. They nearly turned Watkins Glen into Daytona. Like, that was some.
I can't believe they restarted that race with oil on the track and just a bad.
That was gnarly.
Bad look.
That was not good.
Oh, so frustrating.
Yeah. And then the Cup race is Saturday evening under the lights at Daytona. I believe this is the first time the next gen car is going to be in a Saturday night race at Daytona. Whatever the heck that means. I don't know. They're all going to race the same. Doesn't really matter. And then the truck race, for those of you that are interested, is Sunday afternoon at the Milwaukee Mile. I don't know what they did this week. It's a little weird. So the Playbook, I'll have the Cup Playbook out probably Friday because qualifying doesn't matter, really. I mean, it really doesn't, to be perfectly honest.
Well, I'd say qualifying matters a little bit.
A little bit, I guess, to help you figure out who you want to avoid, I guess.
Well, I think we say it all the time, but it's good to understand the lineup theory that should go into your construction.
There you go.
But at the same time, like we can say that dominator points don't matter. It's nice to get them, but if you have a guy that leads 40 laps and he wrecks, those dominator points are for nothing.
Correct.
So you don't want to start too many guys in the top 10, 1, maybe 2. Really, the bread and butter of winning a DFS tournament is going to be nailing the right guys that start in the teens that can move up and finish top 5 or potentially win. And then you're going to have those people that just play the back mark, or not the back markers, I shouldn't say that.
The stack the back crowd.
Stack the back crowd in cash games. Like literally you're just playing the last 6 drivers.
And just rooting for chaos and that your drivers avoid it.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, last year in this race, Austin Dillon won starting 21st. Tyler Reddick started 6th and finished 2nd. He was the only guy to start inside the top 10 and finish inside the top 12.
Dear Lord.
You had Cindric starting 14th, finished 3rd. Then 35th, 37th, 33rd, 36th. Then 13th finished 8th. That was Truex. 34th was David Reagan, who finished 9th. 22nd was Kyle Busch, who finished 10th. The next highest starting spot was Joey Logano, who started 3rd and finished 12th. This was the race that ruined top 10 parlays for everybody.
The $1 million winner.
Yeah, FanDuel let some idiot Well, not some idiot. They were the idiots. Parlay top 10 odds at Daytona. And so they parlayed Landon Castle, Cody Ware, BJ McLeod, David Reagan, and Noah Gragson into $1 million.
Credit to that guy.
Most on a free bet.
Yeah. A free, like, what, $13.91 bet?
Something like that. It was atrociously small and won him $1 million. Yeah, so chaos reigns supreme here. Literally anything can happen. The pole sitter finished dead last. Kyle Larson went from being on the pole, didn't lead any laps, and after 14 laps, his engine blew up and he finished dead last.
Historically, just not a good super speedway racer.
No.
And yet his rostership is still juiced to almost 15 to 20% every slate.
Yep. Because it's Kyle Larson and anything can happen theoretically.
So let me ask you this. What are you doing? Let's say, because they haven't done tech yet for Cup Series, right? As of Thursday night. They did it for Xfinity.
As far as I'm aware, they have not. Yeah, Kyle Larson, by the way, in the last 8 plate races, which includes now Atlanta, his average starting position is 3.3. His average finish position is 25th.
Yeah, just goes backwards.
Not good.
So what are you doing if a driver like Chase Elliott, who does need to win, what do you do if he fails tech 3 times or just has a terrible qualifying effort and he starts outside the top 30? Are you the kind of well? There's 2 ways that you can go, because simply just matching the field in terms of ownership or rostership, whatever you want to call it, it's not the best strategy. Would you rather just go all in and put him in every lineup for double the leverage on the field? Because you have to assume he's probably going to be 40 to 50% rostered. Or do you just completely fade him and go 0 to 20% exposure?
In cash games, I'm probably going all in.
Sure. But tournaments, I'd probably go the other way and just leave
in tournaments. I go the other way. Yeah. I'd want not as little as I can get away with, but certainly be under. I mean, and here's the other thing to remember, folks. I know it's been a little bit since we've had a play track. Salaries don't matter.
Right.
They're like the points in whose line is it anyway. They're all made up and they don't matter because you're going to have a boatload of money left over. Now, I've seen the tweets that come out for every one of these tracks. There's like, well, traditionally, if you spend about $47,500, you get the optimal lineup. Okay, but like, not necessarily. Like, yeah, that race, okay, but show me the next one, and you're going to see $10,000 left on the table, right? And just as an idea of this, there's only 2 drivers over 10K on DK this week.
It's odd. I didn't even notice that.
Denny and Chase are the only 2 dudes over 10,000 on DK. Blaney's 9,900. And by the way, I think they're baiting people by putting Larson at $9,200. I think they're baiting people into a play.
Probably. And let people bite it. Like, go for it.
Yeah, I'm not. I was joking with Dan that I was going to write a 37 driver playbook this week. I'm going to amend that. I'm going to write 36, and Larson's going to be the only dude who's not in the playbook.
You could make an argument for so many drivers priced under, arguably all the drivers priced under 6K.
I mean, that's
because equipment doesn't matter either. Like even the guys that are in the worst equipment, like it doesn't matter this week.
Correct. Correct. It's because everybody has the same package on the car, so that's why everybody winds up doing basically exactly the same speeds. So, am I saying that the playbook doesn't matter this week? No. Of course, I'm not telling you to not read my content. What I'm saying is, if there's a guy you want to play and he's not in the playbook, take a shot. This is the week to do it because it's literally a crap. I mean, Malin and I watched it happen in front of our faces. We were sitting pretty, and then Larson caught fire and took out 3/4 of the field, and that was the end of the day. So, I mean, I'll have a normal size playbook this week with guys I feel confident enough in to play because they've backed it up continuously at plate tracks. Doesn't mean other guys can't show up out of nowhere and have a good day.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about a guy like Daniel Suarez jumps off the page
Right.
because historically, prior to 2021, was not a great super speedway racer.
Correct.
But then, all of a sudden we get the next gen car, we get him on a new team, and he's coming in, and his exposure levels are never severely high. But for the Daytona 500 this year, he starts 24th, finishes 7th. For the Geico 500 at Talladega, started 22nd, finished 9th. And so all of a sudden, he is turning into this very underrated and a guy that no one really likes to consider when building their lineups. But he's a guy and a driver with top 10 equity that probably needs a win, right?
Yes, he does need a win. He is below the cut line. He is, if I remember correctly, directly below Ty Gibbs. I think he's about 45 points below the cut line. And sure, they would love to get him back into the playoffs after last year's showing. And he's got 3 straight top 10 finishes between Daytona and Talladega.
And his teammate, Ross Chastain, won Talladega last year.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. They know how to put together some fast cars over there at Trackhouse. And like I said, nobody really pays attention to that guy on plate tracks.
Now, we talk about, team stacking is a thing, but you're also a big proponent for manufacturer stacking as well.
Yes.
If you were to do 20 lineups, how many of those builds would be full-on forward stacks? Because we talk all the time when we come to tracks like this about how the aerodynamics of the Ford cars kind of help them in the draft and being able to push their way to the front. And when you look at the Ford camp, there are plenty of guys that can go out and potentially surprise and win this race. I do love the idea of pairing Austin Cindric with someone like Joey Logano or Ryan Blaney. And then you can do some SHR stacks too, because Eric Almirola at 6,900, nice, has the ability to win.
This week.
Well, yeah, he's the nice play this week. But then the field is so heavy with Ford drivers that it's so easy to make Ford stacks and do the right thing. Like, you can get guys starting in the back and guys starting with up closer to the front with win equity. You can leave money on the table. Ford stacks will be popular. It's probably harder to do a full Toyota stack since there's only going to be like 6 of them in the field.
Yes.
But Ford stacks,
sure you can fit all of them in one lineup.
Well, I'm going to try.
I'm doing the exact same thing right now. Denny, Bubba, Truex, Bell.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, you can't do it.
I gotta put in.
Well, what's the point in playing now if I can't play the Toyotas?
I know I can't get Ty Gibbs. I'm $1,100 shy of getting Ty Gibbs.
But I mean, like, we do talk about.
I do. I mean, in fairness, it still does give me Haley or Barry or Todd Gilliland or Harrison Burton.
And we know Haley can win here. We know LaJoy is good on Super.
Yeah, you and I literally saw him win here.
Yeah.
Yeah, LaJoy is really good, and I'm $100 short, which is annoying. I will be doing full stacks, manufacturers, not with Toyota. Clearly, as we just proved, you can't pull it off. Also, there's only 6 of them in the field, so that's really hedging your bet. That being said, the last 2 winners at Daytona have been Chevys. Stenhouse in a Chevy in the 500, and Austin Dillon last year in a Chevy. Now, prior
Kyle
to that,
Busch won Talladega.
What?
And Kyle Busch won Talladega.
Right, but also in a Chevy now. Prior to that, you had 3 straight Fords at Daytona, with Cindric winning the Daytona 500, Blaney winning the Coke 400, Michael McDowell famously winning the Daytona 500. So, it's been pretty even between the Chevys and the Fords here in terms of win equity. In terms of who I feel like moves up better, I think the Ford camp is just better at plate racing Now, do they have guys that also like to wreck each other out? Yeah. Yeah, they do. Joey Logano comes to mind. But yeah, I if I'm doing, you asked 20 lineups. If I'm doing 20 lineups, I would say probably half of them are just a smattering of dudes. I don't care about manufacturers. I'm playing guys that I like paired together. I'll go with the normal strategy of, one top 10 guy, one guy starting 11th through 20th, and the rest of them like 25th on back, right? I'll go a couple of those, stack the back and forget it, right? We'll romp appeal it. We'll just set it and forget it.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones, I'm going to break those in half between like Chevy stacks with a little bit of Toyotas mixed in and Ford stacks with a little bit of Toyotas mixed in. And that's how I do it.
So how do you see this race playing out? Do you think it'll be relatively tame for the first two stages, which is unfortunate because
I don't think so.
If it really, because I don't think we're going to see like drivers making moves until like late in stage 3. I don't really think that too many of these drivers are going to be aggressive in the early stages trying to get to the front when they know it doesn't really matter until they cross the line on the final lap.
I think the less experienced guys who are like, well, hey, I'm not top 30 in points, but I've been a full-time driver, and if I get a win, I make the playoffs. I think they're going to try some moves.
So like Ty Dillon.
Probably. I think some other guys who are more disciplined will play out their strategy. And by the way, those of you that play Denny Hamlin, don't freak out. He's going to drop to the back. He does it all the time here. Does it all. I've literally watched a dude win the pole, like smoke people for the pole, and then 3 laps in, he's like, peace out. Good much. I'm going backwards, and just rides around for like 150 laps in the back of the pack. And then all of a sudden, he's back in the top 5, and you have no idea where he came from. He technically won one of these races from the pole while never spending any time on the pole. He led the last lap of the race.
The guy gets it. Like, he knows the system. Just exploit it.
Yep. I think it's going to be crazy from start to finish.
I think that's probably where
they're under the lights, and the lights do something to NASCAR drivers that just make them more amped and more.
You could say that about like casual drivers, just
like, on the highway. Yeah, but think about the Bristol night race. It's now it's harder to compare because it's the first Bristol races on dirt. But like, if you back to when we had the actual Bristol spring race and then the Bristol night race in the fall, Bristol night race is way more amped up. Same with Martinsville. Now, the second Martinsville race is, fighting for the championship, but lights tend to jack up these guys, and I would be willing to bet you that this race is nuts from start to finish.
All right. Any final white flag thoughts before we go? I know we don't really hit on too many drivers specifically, but we try to cast, I guess, a wide net.
Yeah.
For DFS purposes, because we do the Super Speedway podcast before we even know the starting order. But obviously, your playbook will be vital, and you and I will be in the NASCAR DFS Discord answering questions up until lineup lock on Saturday. Do you have any final thoughts on what to expect, or just
don't check money until the checkered flag goes?
That's a good point. Yeah,
literally, don't. Like, I went from winning $0 going into turn 3 of the final lap of the Daytona 500 in 2021 to winning $2,500 by the end of the race, literally a half mile later.
And you hit McDowell to win that bet too.
Yeah, 66-1. So don't check lineups. Please don't send hold, because like by the time you finish typing that, it's not gonna be holding. So that would be it.
All right. Well, Matt, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck to you this Saturday night for the final race of the regular season, and best of luck to the FA Nation.
Best of luck.